Well, thank you. Masterful timekeeping there. Great moderation of the very interesting panel. Now, we're on the home stretch before lunch, and before we head home, I've been asked to give a few conference conclusions. I'm going to make those very, very brief indeed, so that we can bring up Mr. Jean-David Malo from the European Commission, and also allow the stage for Theo, which is his favorite place to be, I think. For me, I found this a fascinating 2 days. I think we've heard lots of very interesting examples. I think it's, for a start, been very helpful to take a pan-European approach and to see how across the Union there is all sorts of interesting different ways of approaching the same essential theme of how do we get more philanthropic money into research and innovation. And I think whilst there are going to be limits to how much things happening in one country can be translated to others, we're not all going to get the Danish model of half our companies being owned by foundations and therefore being able to show the kind of largesse that Novo Nordisk is able to show. But I think there are a lot of things to learn and models that can be, if not strictly replicated, at least adapted to our local conditions. And it's great that the European Commission is showing an interest in this, and I think hopefully they've taken extensive notes whilst they've been here the last 2 days to help shape their thinking and the incentives they may provide to do more of this. I suppose for me, if I'm thinking ahead, if we're here in a year's time or in 5 years' time, what would I hope that we would have seen? I think just three words leap out. For me, bigger, faster, and riskier are the three things I would like to see. I think there's lots of examples of things that are happening that are still relatively small scale, and I think that if this is to really move the needle, we need those things that are small to become bigger and to really start affecting significant budgets. That may not be, I think we've had a very interesting discussion about SIBs. SIBs may forever be things that you use to pilot new initiatives, but the results of those pilots need to be scaled out by governments if they're really to be part of a new sort of ecosystem of policy development. There's a lot of, I think we do need to move more quickly. I think it's interesting, Britain has at least done these, got a fairly steady stream of pilots of different things going on. I was excited by this discussion of Portugal this morning, and it's great to see a couple of examples there, but it would be great if you can really see similar pipelines across a number of different countries of experiments taking place, and more things for us to talk about and share and learn from. I think the biggest theme that came across to me, throughout the conversation is that there needs to be a greater risk appetite, and that's a theme that I think always applies to any discussion of philanthropy. Philanthropy has uniquely the ability to take risks and pursue contrarian agendas and be more experimental and so forth. And I think every study or discussion we've ever had of philanthropy has someone like Luc Taillart de Born come up and say, well, yes, philanthropy can take risks, but in reality it's very risk averse. And I think so many of these examples, particularly when they involve collaboration, it came through in a number of the conversations on the panels that usually there's one partner that really wants to push ahead with the partnership or the experiment a lot more than the others, and there's usually one partner at least that's dragging their feet, and it does need someone willing to step up and take the extra risk, maybe to put the extra financial incentives in, or take the extra initiative of pushing things forward to to actually get these experiments or these partnerships to work, to move ahead. And I do think this is where it ought to be, the philanthropic sector that shows that willingness to take the greater risk, because the freedom is there. And so I think my word of encouragement in finishing would be to say, bigger, faster, and riskier, and to urge you in the foundation sector to say, well, look, where can we take bigger risks to try some of these new things and see if we can really discover insights that can dramatically improve our societies. And so I'd like to thank you very much for having me here for the last day or so, and for letting me moderate you. And I found the conversation fascinating, as I've said, and been great to meet you all and to spend time on boats as well as in more academic environments thinking things through. I'm going to hand over now to Mr. Malo and to Theo to finish things off. So thank you very much.
Good afternoon. First of all, I would like to, on behalf of Jean-David Malo, apologies for not being here today with you. Nonetheless, I will try to do my best and convey the message. Dear Matthew, thank you very much for mastering the ceremony, organizers, and I also want to thank you, all the distinguished speakers, for their valuable contribution. Dear ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ignacio Puente. Actually, Puente in Spanish means bridge. So, first statement. It is my pleasure to be here with you today at the Conference of Philanthropy and Social Investment. This conference is associated to the Netherlands EU presidency, and it is co-organized by the European Commission, concretely the Directorate General for Research and Innovation. This is for us a special, let's say, moment, and as you will see, I do not have slides because now we are drafting the next steps. This is what my speech will be about. These 2 days, we have had a rich and focused discussion. It has been one of the most inspiring conferences in this busiest quarter of the year. I would like to thank you again, all of you, for your passion and your positive thinking. As we have heard, philanthropists, social investors, but also entrepreneurs are in a privileged position to address societal challenges. As we have seen, foundations are, from time to time, collaborative partners that contribute with specialized knowledge and experience to the common good. Philanthropists, social investors can be proactive and sometimes, as we have seen, risk takers, and invest in the most creative and innovative projects that might turn out to be groundbreaking solutions. In many cases, they support innovative activities that can be considered as a key ingredient for social cohesion. They take the shared responsibility for and contribute to society's well-being at large. They support and complement other actors to fill in the gaps in society. Since 2005, the European Commission, the Directorate General for Research and Innovation, has set up expert groups, conferences, have commissioned several studies in the field, has been working with philanthropists, but also digging into specific topics like responsible research and innovation. Some examples of those reports are, for example, Giving for Research in Europe, the role of foundations and non-for-profit sector in boosting R&I investment in 2006, or, for instance, the 4M Up study in 2009, or Giving in Evidence Foundation fundraising from philanthropy in European universities. The role, another study, it is the role of philanthropy in the promotion of responsible research and innovation, which actually was led as well by Theo's team, and also the involvement of the European Foundation Center. Nowadays, what do we have? We have, for instance, the Invest Horizon program. The Invest Horizon program, it's boosting the investment readiness of innovative companies. So social entrepreneurs that do want to bring innovative solutions in order to address societal challenges, here you have a program that will support you in order to access private sources of finance. Nowadays, the Euphoria study sets the bar in new policy developments. It has demonstrated that the activities of many European foundations match well with the European Union and national policymaker missions, tackling societal challenges like healthcare and improving the social and economic well-being of Europe's citizens are also our policy goals under Horizon 2020, the framework program for research and innovation. The Commission's policy objective with regard to research and innovation take fully into account the considerations and concerns of citizens. For example, DGRTD promotes the development of new drugs to tackle infectious diseases with the use of new technologies and new financing forms. We also support researchers to continue and further develop the research programs and many other activities linked to our planet and our society. Therefore, innovative financing and risk-taking, it is in our blood. When I'm talking about risk-taking, it's not only in terms of activities, but we also have the first lost piece. I am happy to see that both in terms of priorities and values, the Commission is on the same page with what some foundations do, and that there is fertile ground for deepening cooperation. The Euphoria study findings and recommendations are a valuable source of information and a call for action. I take the opportunity to briefly recall some of the main recommendations and findings that, if implemented well, they could further increase the potential of R&I foundations in Europe. A first recommendation is to increase the visibility of R&I foundations which we can assist. And this is indeed the perfect scenario for doing so. The intention is to address the fragmented landscape of foundations in Europe, which is perhaps reflected by the lack of dialogue between them. Less fragmentation should in turn help to increase the impact of existing funding and add focus, which can raise the appeal of foundations' activities and lead to greater number of beneficiaries and synergies among them. National governments can help to manage a better dialogue between them in order to create forums at regional but national level in order to support and create a potential for foundations. A second recommendation we have indeed heard these days, it's related to explore synergies through collaboration and, why not, clustering. Mutual advantage can be derived from pooling expertise, sharing infrastructures, expanding activities, pooling money to lack of necessary funds, avoiding duplication. It's an effort that could be taken into account and thus create economies of scale. These synergies can be explored both at the national level, but of course at the EU level. A third and final recommendation among the different recommendations that the study brings is a call for Europe to integrate philanthropy as a constituent of the EU welfare state paradigm. In other words, from the policy perspective, we believe that policymakers and politicians should help to develop a giving culture with all relevant stakeholders, including universities, research centers, foundations, and the private sector. For instance, they could raise through innovative ways like crowdfunding and can support public services while benefiting the resilience of societies and social cohesion. Therefore, this conference is an example on how to share and explore new financing forms, create synergies for mutual benefit, and means to close the collaboration triangle between the public sector, foundations, and businesses. This is just the very beginning. Together with the conclusions of this conference, we are planning to set up a high-level expert group on philanthropy and social investments to analyze the different forms that the key stakeholders' involvement could take in order to contribute to the European grand challenges by the means of research and innovation. The output of this expert group will aim to leverage financial support coming from foundations and other suppliers of capital, such as venture philanthropies, social impact investors, I will give you some examples that we may explore. But as I have said, nowadays, right now, we are drafting the potential actions that may take place. An idea would be capacity building for philanthropic and social funding. Another idea could be a potential pilot financial support mechanism, subject, of course, to further work, design, structure, and have the necessary critical mass. And, of course, some other, let's say, policy measures that we could develop together. Therefore, your contribution and willingness is crucial to make those activities come true. Finally, I would like to thank representatives from different ministries, high-level delegates, and, of course, all the participants for being here today. Thank you very much for your support.
Thanks, Ignacio. Well, it's just time for lunch. Thanks for staying, and a last few words to all of you. Ignacio, you had given a very strong and clear summary of the Euphoria study. Thanks for that. And I prepared the same, more or less, so thanks. So there's only one new concept today, and it was the concept formulated by Portugal, our João. João, we are now today proclaiming a SIB, a scientific impact bond. Yeah, it's not a social impact bond, but I think that if we are introducing in all our articles and papers and all our policy documents the term scientific impact bonds, it will grow naturally from the ground. Well, to close, I think the work doesn't end today. We will meet again for sure. The issues we have discussed yesterday and today, they were crucial ones. And it's my hope, on behalf of all my colleagues, that this conference has met your expectations. I would like to thank all of you to attend this conference. A special word of thanks to our sponsors, the Directorate General R&I, the National Postcode Lottery, and one generous, anonymous sponsor. A special word of thanks to the keynote speakers, the panel speakers, and the leading managers of the conference, the Master of Ceremony, Matthew, and the moderators, Wilhelmina Verloop and René Beckers. A special word of thanks also to the organizing committee, Ignacio, Bridging Gonzalez, Marita Cayamanido. She is unfortunately not able to attend. Caroline Temple from the ministry, Joël van Andel, and Nick Dubbelaar. But most work is done by the project team. And may I have a big hand for Barbara Gouwenberg, Barry Holwerf, and his newborn little daughter, Isa, and for Brigitte Schouten. A big hand, please. Well, to end, Amsterdam was our host city yesterday and today. I hope Amsterdam enjoyed you. The venue, the boat trip, the former home for elderly women, the Hermitage we visited yesterday evening, and I hope it gives an appetite for more. I hope to see you again. Thank you, and it's time for lunch.